Hello, welcome back to Music of the Armenian Liturgy. My name is Armenia Sarkisian. I know it's been a while since we've done a segment, but I've been off conducting some interviews and also working on some other projects, which I will reveal to you all very shortly, one of which is an album definitely related to this week's episode, but that's all I'll say for now. We are back and ready to keep learning about all the exciting and unique music within the expansive Armenian liturgy. This week we'll be focusing on the feast hymn Norahrash Bsagavor, dedicated to Vartanantz and the Battle of Avarayr. So stay tuned to learn about all of that. Like always, the time codes are in the description box below if you want to skip ahead to any point of the episode. Thanks for tuning in, and let's get started. The Kingdom of Armenia often served as a vassal at the frontier of the Byzantine and Sassanid empires. In 301 AD, King Tiridates III proclaimed Christianity as the state religion of Armenia, making the Kingdom of Armenia the first state to officially embrace Christianity. The conflict between the pro-Persian and pro-Byzantine Norahras resulted in the destruction and partition of the Kingdom of Armenia. Emperor Theodosius and Shapur III divided Armenia amongst Byzantium and Persia in 387, but the crown and religious leaders of Armenia realized the peril of foreign administrative and religious control. Byzantium received the western part of Armenia, or Lesser Armenia, and Arshak III continued as king and as a vassal for the Byzantines. Persia received the eastern part of Armenia, or Greater Armenia, and Khosrov IV continued as king and as a vassal for the Sassanids. Upon the death of King Arshak, Byzantium did not appoint another Armenian king, and thus Greek governors and culture began to rule. In Persian Armenia, Khosrov IV was succeeded by King Varamshapu, who was then succeeded by his son, King Ardashes IV. Ardashes was forcefully removed from his throne in 428, and Armenia became a land divided with no national leader. The Sassanids then appointed their own governor to rule. For the first 50 years following the partition, Armenia was generally left alone in its religious and cultural affairs. However, in Persian Armenia, the situation altered when Yazdegerd II became king in 439. He and members of his courts attempted to impose Zoroastrianism on all the non-Persian people in his kingdom. Armenia now had to choose between accepting the worship of fire or resorting to arms. Yazdegerd II issued the following order to all the people in his kingdom. All people and tongues throughout my dominions shall abandon their false religions and come to worship the sun. They shall bring offerings to it and call it God, and they shall render homage to the fire, fulfilling all the ordinances of the Magi. The Armenians' refusal to denounce their god resulted in harsh consequences, as it was seen as open rebellion against the Persian Empire. King Yazdegerd started restricting the freedoms of the church, imposing high taxes and duties on the country, pitting powerful Nakhirat families against each other in order to sow dissension, and even appointed a Persian as chief justice of the country, all this to destroy Armenian unity and push everyone to poverty, thus forcing them to adhere to the teachings of the Magi. However, despite the plundering and subsequent poverty, Armenians could not be intimidated out of their Christian faith, prompting the Magi to write a very strongly worded letter that was both long and threatening to the Armenians. And this is where the story of Vartanantz really begins. Under the leadership of General Vartan Mamikonian, during the reign of Catholicos Hovsep, a national assembly was held in the capital city of Ardashad to respond to Yazdegerd's letter. Many bishops and priests from all over the country attended and were of one accord. With the consent of Vartan and other distinguished Nakharars and the entire population of the country, a unanimous letter was sent on behalf of the Armenians to the Persians. Here's a sample of that. From this faith no one can shake us, neither angels nor men, neither sword nor fire nor water nor any blow, however bitter it be. All our goods and possessions are in your hands, our bodies are before you, dispose of them as you will. If you require anything beyond this extensive testimony, we are ready. Our bodies are in your hands, do with them as you please. Yours to torture, ours to submit. The sword is yours, the necks are ours. We are no better than our forefathers who, for the sake of faith, surrendered their properties, possessions, and bodies. The entire populace, from the highest to the lowest, has assented to this declaration of faith. They have bound themselves with an inviolable vow to remain true to their religion in life and death. With this letter, the Armenians are telling Yazdegerd that they are loyal to Persia, but also faithful to their Christianity. At the same time, a pro-Persian faction was being led by the Armenian governor and Marzban Vasagswini, who wished to dialogue with Yazdegerd about a compromise, but no compromise between them could have possibly resulted in Armenia's freedom of religion. Knowing this, General Vartan Mamikonian started organizing an army to defend Armenia against the inevitably invading Persian forces. In search of a strong ally, Armenians sought aid from Constantinople but were unsuccessful. So in 451, on the plains of Avarayr, the Armenians had an army of 66,000 men led by General Vartan Mamikonian, who chose to fight in the famous Battle of Avarayr against the highly trained Persian army totaling 300,000 men and battle elephants. The numbers were already stacked against the Armenians, but during a crucial moment in the battle, Vasagswini chose not to join the fight with his men and has been long considered a traitor in Armenian history. 8 generals, including Vartan Mamikonian, were slain in battle alongside 1,036 Armenian soldiers, all now considered martyrs. The Armenians were defeated on the plains of Avarayr, but their rebellion and resistance against the Sassanids' oppression continued for more than 30 years and inspired rebels under the leadership of Vartan Mamikonian's nephew, Vahan Mamikonian. Vahan was able to conduct successful guerrilla-type warfare against Persia, and in 484, Persia was forced to sign the Armenian peace treaty known as Navarsak, whereupon it was agreed that Armenia would remain Christian and would have freedom of religion. Everyone would be equal under the law and would have the right to appeal to the Persian court directly. Moreover, no apostate could hold high office. After this achievement, Vahan was appointed military director and governor and ruled for 2 decades. This was the first time that a treaty concerning human rights and liberties had ever been signed in the East. The Persians lost what they were trying to impose upon the Armenians, their religion. Zoroastrianism dissipated as Persia fell to the Muslim conquest in 651. The Armenians, however, have been consistently Christian since 301 AD. So we celebrate Avarayr and the Navarsak peace treaty as moral victories, for they perfectly symbolize Armenia's continual struggle not only to survive, but preserve its ancient identity and Christian beliefs against continual and powerful enemy forces. Vartan became the most outstanding hero in Armenian history. He, with his comrades in arms, and millions of others throughout history that took up his example, laid down their lives in order for future generations to worship the Lord freely. The War of Saint Vartan was fought exclusively on the issue of freedom of conscience, and as such constitutes a glorious event in humanity's fight for freedom of religion. Armenians are proud inheritors of this unconquerable spirit, manifested on the fields of Avarayr in the middle of the 5th century. The text was written by Sourp Nerses Shonorhali in the 12th century. You can learn more about Sourp Nerses by clicking the link above me. Here's the translation of the text. Norahrash Bsagavor, Yevzorakluch Arakiniats, marvelously crowned, general of the virtuous. Varetzar zinu hokvuin ariapar antem mahu, you who were courageously armed against death with the weapons of the spirit. Vartan kachnahadag, vorvanetzer ostashnamin, Vartan, O brave martyr, you who chase the enemy. Vartakuin ariamputko besagetzer ozyegeretzi, and with your red blood crowned the church. This sharagan, Norahrash Bsagavor, was also titled Nerses Yerk, Song by Nerses. Saint Nerses wrote this poetic religious national hymn in honor of Saint Vartan, all of his warriors, and of course the 8 generals that were slain in battle. It's composed of 10 stanzas, with each beginning initial spelling out Nerses Yerk. In each stanza, the author recalls and praises the 8 generals by name, invoking their virtuous dedication to Armenia and Christianity. My father, Yesai Sarkisian, who is the choir master of our church here in Toronto, combined all 8 names of the generals into one verse, using the original descriptions by Nerses Shonorhali, in order for us to still mention all their names when we're singing this sharagan in Mass, without having to sing all 10 verses. So I'm going to include this as a PDF in the description box below, along with the text, in case there's any other choir members out there that are watching this that would like to perhaps use a more expedient verse in their future dedications. The most well-known version of this feast hymn was arranged by Gomidas Vartabet. The monophonic versions of the Sharagan are most likely the more reliable musical sources, as sometimes liberties are taken by editors who try to fit a piece into Western musical notation for certain instrumentations, like for a church organ or for choral arrangements that are a little bit thicker that perhaps delineate from the original intended musical mode. There are 8 Armenian musical modes, and they're labeled with the first 4 letters of the Armenian alphabet: Ayp, Pen, Kim, and Ta. So the modes are labeled as such: Ayp Tzain, Ayp Gen, Pen Tzain, Pen Gen, Kim Tzain, Kim Gen, Ta Tzain, Ta Gen. Authentic modes are tzains, and plagal modes are the gens, or the goms. However, all of them are musically unique, so their naming is basically unrelated. Each day of the week has a different mode. So say Ayp Tzain falls on a Monday. Tuesday will be Ayp Gen, Wednesday would be Pen Tzain, and Thursday would be Pen Gen, and so on and so forth. They all follow the church calendar. Looking at this score, and with the help of Mr. Haig Utidjian, who I've mentioned on this channel before, and whose works will be linked in the description box below, this Sharagan is in Ta Gen Tartsavatsk. Tartsavatsk modes are a subcategory within a parent mode, in this case Ta Gen, which is musically different but bears a tonal relationship with the parent mode, and thus is sometimes used to modulate into the parent mode. Ta Gen has 2 tonic axes, G major and A minor. The notes generally comprise of the numations paired with the melody generally decide whether a mode is Tartsavatsk or not, as there will be recognizable changes in the numations deployed. But in this case, right away we see a B flat in the first bar. So we know that we're not necessarily in Ta Gen, even though everything else fits, because Ta Gen has a B natural. So right after that pickup, we have a bar with the B flat, but then later on we do have a lot of B naturals in the Sharagan as well. So I'm going to play the first page so you hear how it goes from Ta Gen Tartsavatsk back to Ta Gen, and so on and so forth. Norahrash, we have those B flats. Rakluch, B natural. Back to the B flats. With the help and expertise of Mr. Haig Utidjian, we will do an episode explaining all the church modes and how they function in the liturgy, all that good stuff. But for now, we'll leave it here and move on to the Sharagan itself. I hope you enjoy Norahrash Bsagavor.
Bsagavor
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Music of the Armenian Liturgy. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you in my next episode.